treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
All right, I had 3 mics to unmute today. What's up, y'all? This is another episode of Bitches Love Sports on NTX Radio. How is everybody doing today? I know there's stuff to talk about with the Wings and with the Mavs, but I feel like everybody in North Texas right now is talking about what is going on with the Cowboys and Matt Eberflus, who, in case you live under a rock, got fired today. And as you can see, I keep hearing buzzing. Sorry if I'm hurting y'all's ears. I'm going to fix it. But as you can see, I have some guests with me who I'm going to introduce in a second. Well, actually, I'll introduce y'all before I get to shout-outs and call-outs. So these guys are brothers. Y'all have met Keller before. Keller Patterson. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Once again, I am Keller Patterson, sophomore defensive tackle from Columbia University.
And this is Ben.
Hello, guys. I'm Ben Patterson. I'm currently a senior at Texas Permian Basin. Play football, receiver, and also I'm majoring in petroleum engineering.
All right. So before the news broke this morning, I definitely had plans to talk more about the transfer portal today, which is operating under different rules this year than it did last year. Well, slightly different. There's one portal window instead of two, so it's just the one window instead of having the one and then the spring one. But we'll talk about all that in a second. But first, I want to go through some shout outs and call outs real quick with you guys, which I haven't done in a while. But shout outs and call outs is basically my way of running through everything that I think is cool in the news real quick so we can get that out the way and discuss some major topics. So, first of all, I want to say shout out to everybody from my hometown, everybody from my home state of Louisiana, my hometown being Lake Charles, Louisiana. Today is January 6th, which means it is 12th night. The 12th night after Christmas, which marks the start of the Mardi Gras season. And we've got a real short Mardi Gras season this year. Mardi Gras is going to fall on February 17th, so you've got from now until February 17th to get your celebration on. So if anybody is starting today with the celebrations and the king cakes and the announcement of the cruise, definitely turn up for me because I'm going to be here working. The next shout out is a shout out to Unrivaled Women's Basketball in their second season. So Unrivaled is the women's basketball 3-on-3 league that's run by Nafisa Collier and her husband. Well, I should say it's more so run by her husband. She calls herself a founder. But they're in their second season. Got an awesome media rights broadcasting deal. So they have games airing on Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. And they're doing pretty good numbers to say that they're in their second year. So shout out to them. The next one is a call out related to that. We got to call out the WNBA. That January 9th deadline is approaching, and it seems like they still have made no progress on CBA negotiations. And if you remember, several weeks ago, right before the Christmas holiday, the WNBA players voted to allow for a strike. So, in other words, if the WNBA Players Association executives, the officers, decide, hey, what the WNBA is bringing to the table is not good enough, we're going to strike, there will be a work stoppage. They've already cleared it. So we are 3 days away from that deadline. No announcement of any sort of progress. It sounds like things aren't really going to work out for the WNBA and the WNBPA. And so that could have really big implications for the upcoming season. They've got an expansion team to worry about, which means an expansion draft. They've got to figure out their regular draft. They've got to figure out scheduling for the season, especially considering that they just signed this big media rights deal, and now they don't have a product to uphold their end of the bargain. So WNBA is definitely failing on that. There was talk that the NBA's Adam Silver might come to the table with everyone involved. So if he manages to do that in the next 3 days, maybe they'll get something done. But otherwise, it looks like it's going to be a work stoppage for the ladies. One more shout out two more shout outs. One of them goes to soccer podcasters because y'all are hilarious. So I've been listening to more soccer podcasts. And yesterday, the big news was about Manchester United and Ruben Amorim being fired. But when this first happened, and you might appreciate this, Manchester United put out a statement saying that Ruben Amorim left the club, saying that he left the team. And I'm listening to this one soccer podcast. Yeah, he left the team a lot like Nicolas Maduro left Venezuela. And I was like, wow. So shout out to y'all just for being hilarious and staying up on international news and keeping the soccer podcast interesting. We might talk a little bit more about Amorim later. But my last shout out, which we'll talk about a little bit more, goes to the Dallas Cowboys for firing Matt Eberflus. When I was planning this show this morning, this was actually going to be a call out. I had planned to call out the Dallas Cowboys for not firing him yet. I know it's only been 48 hours since their last game, but I was ready. I was like, what do y'all have to think about? The team is... Well, the team's defense, I should say, is last in damn near every metric, and anything that they're not last in, they were like in the bottom 3 or bottom half of the league at best. They literally allowed more points per game this season than they've allowed since the fucking 60s. Are you serious? So and here's a preview of my take on this. I'm about to ask y'all. I do think there are some personnel issues, right? I think both things can be true. There are some personnel issues and also some coaching issues. But I also feel like where you can blame personnel and also allow some grace for a first-year coach is when there are some shortcomings. Like the guys are having trouble picking up the system, and you have some unfortunate but maybe close losses. But when you have literally historic levels of shittiness on the defense, I can't think of a better word right now, but when it's like historic levels, record-breaking levels of bad, I feel like that's when you say, yeah, we're going to take care of the personnel issues, but first things first, got to get the coach out of here, and we'll get in somebody who hopefully can do a better job of helping us figure out what to do in terms of personnel. So what have y'all heard about this situation, and what are y'all's thoughts? We'll start with you since you're a defensive guy.
I mean, as you mentioned before, the personnel is just god-awful. I would start with going back to the head of the snake, Gerald Wayne Jones, him trading Micah Parsons before the year. I don't care how many guys say they're professionals, but, like, when you trade the best guy out of the room, that just, like, creates shockwaves, and it's, like, hard to, like, just go ahead and just play as a defender, knowing, like, we're going to replicate that reproduction. Like, the thing is that they pan out into their grades, but that guy, he went above and beyond. He did more for the organization than you could have ever asked. And to trade him because of a couple million, I mean, it just has guys thinking, like, man, am I next? Like, can I produce? What will be enough for me to get this next contract? So it has guys also in their head. And then, two, I mean, we saw what Matt Eberflus did in Chicago, and I wasn't moved. But to follow that up after Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan, and it's just the Cowboys, they haven't been good defensively since, I would say, Dak's second year. When I remember that Thursday night game when Drew Brees, it was 2018 season, when Drew Brees came in there and they scored 3 points. They were on a 10-game winning streak. I think they were decent under Dan Quinn. I wouldn't say good. I would say that Trayvon Diggs' picks made them look better than they were. But, I mean, it is. But when you have guys out here getting concussions that we don't know about because of a TV, like, are we serious? And then when you make all these mid-season trades and they, like, pan out, but they're just Band-Aids for what I say is like a bigger wound. You can't Band-Aid that. You have to sew it up. So I would say, like, it's on Jerry Jones at the end of the day. But, I mean, he has clicks and likes, so that's all he could really ask for. That's what fills his pocket. So does he really think about change at the end of the day? Is there really a check that he wouldn't write for a Super Bowl? We'll see.
I'm going to back you up on the Micah Parsons part, especially considering the fact that, like, for me, the issue was that they didn't have a plan. Like, the reason that they gave it kind of panned out just because a lot of people, if they did have a criticism of Micah Parsons, it was what he didn't bring to the table in the run game. Okay, like, you can criticize that if you want to. Like, it's on tape. The numbers are there. Like, if you want to nitpick it, I feel like there's room to do that. However, it's not like they had a plan. It's not like they had a plan to replace him or a plan to actually make the run game better. They hoped it would get better, but it didn't seem like they had a plan. Just like they didn't really have a plan for what to do when they got rid of Mike McCarthy. I don't know what they were thinking that entire season, that Mike McCarthy was a lame duck coach, but it seems like they went into the offseason last year with no plan. So I think that's just the thing that we're seeing repeatedly that Cowboys fans are really sick of, is just like, okay, y'all keep making moves, and it's almost like they're trying to get better at making moves, but there still doesn't seem to be any recognizable plan. What do you think?
I think first and foremost, to be a really good defense, you got to have a really good edge rusher or a really good secondary player. Now, great defenses, they have both, but you need a good secondary at least to cover longer, to at least let your D-line get home and get a sack. Or you need a good D-line pass rush that can make the ball come out quick and not make your secondary cover as long. But the Cowboys, they don't have either. So it's hard whenever your D-lines depend on your secondary and your secondaries depend on your D-line. So the good thing, though, at least they have 2 first-round picks this year, so they need to make 2 splash play defensive players that can come in and help right now. And I mean, scheme is super important for sure. But first and foremost, if you don't have the players on defense that can actually execute your scheme, it doesn't matter who they bring in as the defensive coordinator. You first have to have the players that can actually execute.
Agreed. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately because, you know, every time this topic comes up, even before the actual firing took place, it seemed like people were like, well, Jazz, who do you think should be the new defensive coordinator? And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm just like, whoever it is, we need guys, because whoever it is, they're gonna look worse than what they actually are if we don't have the guys. And so, like, as an offensive guy, it's just a little experiment. Is there anybody on the Cowboys defense that you think of and you're like, oh, if I were going up against that defense, I would definitely hope that somebody can take care of this guy. Like, who's the guy that you would be like, oh my god,
real guy right now, and I'd say that's Quentin Williams.
okay,
That you actually have to circle him, and he can cause and change the game. But you don't really fear anyone after that. Like, the linebacking core is not good.
I mean, Logan Wilson, he had a couple of splash plays.
But Kenneth Murray, he leaves a lot to be desired.
Don't get me started on Bland.
And then
get started on Bland. What's up?
No, Bland, pick sixes. I mean, when you have a cluer like that, when you have picks, in my opinion, don't overshadow yards and catches given up. Picks, people, when Trayvon Diggs went off, he had 10 picks in the season? 11, right. He had 11 picks. Last time I checked, there's 17 games. So what happens if you don't get a pick in said game? Burnt left and right. You saw what he had. Since he came with the Packers, he's playing that soft coverage. They came in with that comeback, 20-yard game. I mean, I would also say that too, that not even just about the scheme, it's where you put these players. Like the scheme, whatever you run, 4-3, 3-4, that doesn't matter. It's where do you put at these positions? Which players do you put at these positions to matter? The scheme can technically work with anybody, but are these people like fit in the scheme? Does Kenny Clark, does Quentin Williams, Logan Wilson come in and like make the scheme better, or should you tailor fit it? The good thing about like the great coaches, they can adjust, they can evolve. They don't say it's my way or the highway. And I feel like that's what Eberflus did. Like what happened against the Giants was inexcusable. They made Russell Wilson and Malik Neighbors put up 37 on them.
Yeah, there were a lot of guys this season, unfortunately, who had career games against the Dallas Cowboys, which was another reason why I think a lot of people were like, hey, Eberflus can go. Not making excuses for the personnel, because I can't disagree with anything that y'all have said, especially like the linebackers were so disappointing this year, especially considering, for me, it was disappointing in two ways. One, just them not doing what you would expect linebackers to do. Two, the fact that they were supposed to be working with an attack front and that they even made personnel moves to try to make an attack front better, but you still didn't have the linebackers to actually make the attack front as effective as it could be. Because at the end of the day, you still need those linebackers who can clean up and flow and whatnot. And it just felt like they were slow. The reaction time was not what you wanted it to be. That every week, Eberflus said in press conferences that, he respected the football IQ and leadership of Kenneth Murray and Logan Wilson, but I just feel like we weren't really seeing it,
I mean, what's even crazier, pivoting to the head guy making the decisions, is you say that you want a run stopper in the defense, but Kenny Clark, his PFF grade was the worst in run defense the season right before this, and he said that we're trading for a run defender, which is absolutely like mind-boggling. And of all people you trade for, like Kenny Clark, you couldn't try to go Jalen Carter in division or Jordan Davis or maybe a younger defensive tackle. I mean, this guy, Micah Parsons, was literally the face of that defense, and he still was in his, I would say, just entering his prime. You would think that you would try to leverage that into a younger defensive lineman, but instead you get an aging defensive lineman and a first-round pick, which really doesn't mean that much, too, because the Packers, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be late 20s.
Right. What are you going to select with that pick? And I also say it's also on developing players as well, because, oh boy, from Michigan, Mozzie Smith, wasn't he supposed to be the guy? It's also on the Cowboys for not developing these players the right way, too. It's not us, because the talent's there. The raw strength is there. He has the weight room numbers, but when you watch on the film, he's getting pushed back into the lap of the linebackers. Can we make that strength translate? Because that's God-given right there. There's not that many people who can put up what he can put up. But it doesn't matter when his leverage is trash and then he also doesn't run his feet on contact and he's getting pushed back into the laps of the linebackers.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why he's no longer with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't even know what he's done since he left. I know that Kenny Clark, his numbers have improved since he became a Cowboy. I don't know what Mozzie has done since he's not been a Dallas Cowboy. But with that being said, do y'all have any thoughts at all on who the DC is, or are y'all just very much personnel guys?
Just asking, like, who do you think the new Cowboys defense coordinator should be? Or?
Yeah. If you have any thoughts, if you don't, it's totally fine. Because I'll be honest, like, I've seen probably about 15 different names. And so I am kind of at a point where I'm just like, okay, I've seen a few people who I could work, people who on paper sound like they could do good things for the Cowboys. I think one name I saw this morning that I hadn't thought about before was Jim Leonard. And they were talking about his reputation and things that he's able to do for the secondary, or that he's shown he's able to do for a defensive secondary. Okay, cool. And I'm just like, I feel like the Cowboys need somebody right now who's a total package, who's proven, but I'm not a fan of another signing of a fired head coach. That much I can say. I just don't think that's worked out it hasn't worked out well enough in the past to justify it with the way that the offense is trending. You know.
What about your boy Dan Quinn?
I mean, I thought like you. I thought he was decent. But okay, so Dan Quinn, there were also personnel issues under Dan Quinn. And that brings up another question that I have about the defense that I can't really answer, that I don't know the facts to answer, which is, how are they actually making the personnel decisions? You know, because we know certain people who are involved in those decisions, right? But when it comes to, all right, this particular defensive coordinator doesn't have any linebackers, and they're taking safeties and putting them at linebacker, right? How is that happening? Because that was something that happened under Dan Quinn. So it's like, is that a matter of the defensive coordinator not properly expressing what they need, not properly conveying what they need, not having the right conversations? Is it a matter of them saying the wrong thing? Or is it a matter of the front office just being like, we don't care what you say, we don't care what you're asking for, we're going to make whatever moves that we make and you figure it out? Because, for example, earlier in this season when people were talking about, you know, a need at the linebacker spot, they brought in Reddy Stewart, who, shout out to him, plays with a lot of heart, but he's a smaller guy. And they started putting him sometimes on the second level with the linebackers. At this point in the season, well, with the season being over, I've seen him line up literally everywhere. They were literally putting him on the line of scrimmage against the Giants. They put this little man everywhere. And I don't mean to call him, like, little to dismiss him, but, like, for a football player, he is smaller. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just like, okay, if you're asking for linebackers, if you're asking for secondary help, and they bring you Reddy Stewart, was that because you didn't properly convey what you needed, or was that an instance of the front office just being like, this is what you get regardless of what you ask for? You know what I'm saying? Mm. And so that's one thing that makes it hard for me to criticize Dan Quinn, because I feel like he's that example of, okay, personnel issues could have made him look worse than what he was. Or was he just really that bad? Whereas Eberflus, I'm just like, okay, even if you would have been better if not for the personnel issues, I feel like personnel would not have made up for all the areas in which you lack. You get what I'm saying? Mm. So, yeah. We got some people in chat. What up to JV? What up to Clement? Good to see y'all in the chat. JV said, Raheem Morris, Brian Flores, former HC. Okay, so Brian Flores, I do not see going to the Dallas Cowboys. That name keeps coming up. I feel like Brian Flores is going to go somewhere where he's got the opportunity to move up. And I don't see that happening with the Dallas Cowboys, not anytime soon. Not Matt Eberflus. Brian Schottenheimer is still, like, way too early in his head coaching tenure for anybody to come in as a coordinator and realistically believe that they're going to have a shot at becoming a head coach anytime soon. And I feel like that's what Brian Flores is looking for. If he wants to be a DC again for an indeterminate amount of time, he's going to stay with the Vikings. Because, yeah, they have already said that they're willing to shell out money to keep him, right? And so unless somebody makes him a head coach right now, or says, you know, you could be in the next 1 to 2 years, pending what happens with this other guy, you know, like, for example, a New York Giants situation, I think they still don't know who their coach is going to be. So that might be a situation where they could possibly lure a Brian Flores in with the hope that he could be next in line if the first person.
Falcons. I think the Falcons.
Right. Another great example. But I don't see Brian Flores coming to the Cowboys. And I don't think the lawsuit is an issue the way that people have said, because Jerry Jones also did not like the Rooney Rule. So Brian Flores winning this lawsuit would actually work in Jerry Jones's favor, because Jerry Jones would be like, see, I was right. This is a bad rule. Redo it. So, yeah, I don't even think the lawsuit is an issue. But I don't see Brian Flores coming to the Cowboys for other reasons. Raheem Morris, that is a name that I know I heard, but I feel like I need to read up on him a little bit more. Do you know a lot about Morris?
I know about him misusing Kyle Pitts. I know about him messing up my fantasy year after year. I'll tell you that much. Him and then putting Desmond Ridder at quarterback. Like, my goodness.
Sounds like you're not a fan.
No, I'm not. I just feel like the Atlanta Falcons team is just capable of so much more, and going 7-9, like I just feel like that's inexcusable.
Team this year, we saw them beat the Rams, we saw
the
them
Bills.
beat the Bills, but you finish 7-9, don't even make the playoffs. With all that talent you have on your team, I feel like the Falcons really underachieved this year.
And while yes, like the Michael Penix injury,
Falcons felt like they underachieved as well.
And while yes, like you can look at the Michael Penix injury as something where you could use that as a scapegoat, but even then, with Michael Penix on the team, the offense still wasn't performing at its max capacity. You got to find a way to give Bijan more touches. I feel like if you have that type of running back at I'm just getting him the ball. I mean, the secondary, those guys, you see what they did to Matt Stafford and the Rams? They took away his MVP. They literally took it away from him. So I feel like it's just a big disappointment from Falcons fans, and to put another failed head coach, like you said before, at the DC position would just be asking for just trouble.
I just don't trust failed head coaches at this point. It just seems like they come in, and I don't know what it is about them, but more often than not, and I'm not even just talking about the Cowboys now, but more often than not, they end up in a coordinator position where they are just, for whatever reason, not able to get the locker room the way that they need to in order to implement a new system. My laptop is dying. Otherwise, I would pull up my list where I was actually trying to take notes. But one name did just come to mind. It turns out Wink Martindale is available. So that would be somebody that, like, I would not be mad at the Cowboys talking to at all. I would actually be quite excited. But apparently he became available after Michigan. They made some changes in coaching, and the new head guy was like, I got my own people, you can go. I'm like, all right, if that's what you want to do. So we'll see what happens with Mr. Martindale. Anything else y'all want to throw out?
I'd say best case scenario, get a rising position coach.
Yes.
That would be able to rally the locker room. I suggested last year they should have promoted Al Harris, who's the cornerbacks coach.
A lot of people would agree with you on that.
And now he's, I think, with the Bears, and the Bears cornerbacks are
amazing,
thriving. So I think that's best case to go, because it's going to be hard for another failed head coach to come in and be defense coordinator, and for Cowboys fans to rally behind that. So.
Oh, absolutely. And that is something that's going to be important from this point on. Like, I think this decision obviously means a lot for the defense, but it also means a lot for the fans. Some of the consumer studies I was reading at, like, towards the end of 2025 was basically saying that new fans, the way they pick the coach that they root for is not the way that, like, you know, even generations as young as yours picked the team that picked a team. What are you saying, JV? Michigan didn't beat a ranked team the entire season. Okay, we'll come back to that. But anyway, younger fans don't pick their team the same way that we did. They pick it a lot based on online communities and what's the reputation online.
They also go off their, like, players. If they got, like, a player they see.
Yes, and individual players, right. So basically, like, if the narrative around the Cowboys ends up being, hey, the ownership doesn't make good decisions, they're going to, you know, extend this drought that they've been on, they're never going to be good. Or let's say they're, quote unquote, born into a Dallas Cowboys family and they're getting roasted for it online, they're a lot more likely to defect from their family and be like, forget my family, I'm going to choose this. Kind of like how new immigrants to a country will, like, pick a different religion or political affiliation from their parents because of, like, who they go to school with, for example. So there's just a lot to consider in not only how they make this decision and who ends up being the choice, but also the optics of it, if you care about the future of Cowboys Nation, the fans. So if y'all have anything else in the chat to add to that conversation, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll talk about it during the break. After the break, in segment 2, we're going to talk a lot about the transfer portal, because these are two college guys here. You're in the portal, right?
Yes, sir.
One of them being in the portal. And so we're going to talk about just the portal itself, the implications, and kind of get maybe an insider perspective on what it's like to actually go through that process. But we do have 1 minute left. I hate that I don't have my notes. My laptop is none. Anyway, we do have 1 minute left, so I'm going to go through y'all's comments. I'll have to do it up here on the big screen. Let's see. JV offered some other names. John Harbaugh, Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is another one that I've heard a lot that I wouldn't be mad at. Matt Patricia.
Man, Harbaugh can't even get Derrick Henry the ball. I wouldn't trust him.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I know Harbaugh has like a good reputation, but I don't think I would be excited about that choice.
When you have Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs, like, come on now, anybody can look good with that.
And who else? JV said, "Congrats to y'all." Definitely congrats to Keller, who is not in the transfer portal because apparently, according to some people, he's the only freshman who got significant playing time this year. But that's a story that we'll get into when we come back from the break. We're gonna pay a few bills, have a couple of commercials, and we'll come back with a new conversation. So stick around with an episode of Bitches Love Sports with Jazz Monet, and we'll be right back.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
And we are back. Welcome back to Bitches Love Sports. I'm your host, Jazz Monet. How's it going, North Texas? Let's see what y'all put in the chat over the break. JV says, how much blame does Shotty get for Eberflus calling 95 to 99% zone cover 2 defense, just like blaming defensive guys for OC calls? How much blame does Shotty get? That's another tough question for me to answer. And here's what I think about when I think about the play calling. There were points during the season where the Dallas Cowboys defense actually looked like it was trying to be a little bit creative. There were a couple of games where I was like, oh, snap, we got some double A gap blitzing. There was a couple of games where it's like the way that they mirrored the trips on the other side. I was like, okay, that's a smart way to go about that, considering who you have on that side of the ball. And then there were other times that it was just like they're hardly blitzing at all. Much less doing it in any type of creative way. And so it was even hard for me to determine, is this all Eberflus? Like, is Eberflus, like, schematically schizophrenic? Or is there somebody else who's played a role in these play calls? And so, like, since I don't like to assume, I haven't spoken a lot on that. But yeah. Oh, actually, let me real quick read the statement that Jerry Jones put out about this, and then we'll get into the topic of the portal. But here's what Jerry Jones said. He said, having known Matt Eberflus for decades now, we have tremendous respect and appreciation for him as a coach and a person. After reviewing and discussing the results of our defensive performance this season, though, it was clear that change is needed. This is the first step in that process, and we will continue that review as it applies to reaching our much higher expectations. So I'm glad that he mentioned that this is the first step, because I think most people would agree there do need to be multiple steps. Like, I've spoken several times about the fact that, there are coaches who are on the staff that should probably be replaced. So Eberflus is the first step. I'm sure they're going to look at the staff, and I'm sure they're going to look at the personnel. JV says, I don't remember any second this past season of defensive activity. Well, I don't know why you don't. I talked about it when I was doing the live watch-alongs, and I talked about it a couple of times on the show. But it wasn't often. It wasn't often. Like, when I think of, like, the AA gap blitzing, I'm thinking of, like, one game where they did it, like, maybe twice. It was like one or two games where we saw like 6 guys on the line, maybe like a couple of times more, just like some interesting stuff, some delayed blitzes, some disguise looks. But it wasn't often. So I don't blame you for not remembering. I just know it did happen. But like that, to my point, I remember it because I talked about it, but it's just like, why was that only happening in like 1 or 2 games? Like, why was it so sporadic? Because I even remember one formation where they had, I think it was against the Chiefs, and they had Demo lined up like right over the center, and he didn't like physically engage with the center, but it looked like he was there to force Mahomes to pick a side so that it would be easier to like, I don't know what they were trying to do. I just remember seeing Demo over the center, and I was like, what the hell is this? And Mahomes still scrambled and got his yards, but it was something different, and they won that game. Anyway, so we also want to talk about the NCAA transfer portal today. So for those who are not aware, the portal opened on January 2nd. It's open for, 2 weeks?
Yes, it closed on the 16th.
Right. And so this is a time period that's really interesting for just colleges, fans of college football, just because there's a lot of talk about players who could be switching teams that are still in the college football playoffs. And there's a lot of criticism, I think, about like, oh, there's no, so on and so forth. But I just feel like after a certain point, you make enough rules. It's like, I feel like we're at a point where loyalty is kind of a two-way street. Players are doing the same thing that I think college coaches have done for a while. So what I got was that there were about 4,500 players entering the transfer portal this week alone, and we have one of them sitting right here with us. So, Ben, what made you want to hop in the portal?
So I hopped in the portal about a week ago, and the deciding factor for me was just I played the past 4 years at D2 football, and I decided for my best case to the next level, make it to the NFL, was just to be able to go and chase my skills, bigger stage, bigger platform. And so that's why I decided to enter the portal. But currently, I'm just waiting and praying for, there's currently like a lawsuit against the NCAA to pass a ruling that will allow 5 for 5, so allow 5 years of eligibility in 5 seasons. So right now you can currently do 4 years of play in 5 years, but on that red shirt you can just play in 4 games and just play in the postseason. Mm-hmm. But now a lot of people that are true seniors, they're asking, why can't we just go 5 years to play in 5 seasons? And it's a huge deal because they're suing based on like antitrust laws, and it's because you're basically limiting the player's ability to make money through NIL if you don't allow them to play 5 years and 5 seasons. So right now, went to court for a preliminary injunction December 15th, and now we're just waiting on the judge to make a ruling, and hopefully decides to pass it, and we can go from there.
So that lawsuit will determine how much eligibility you have left.
Yes. So hopefully it does, and I'll have another year.
So right now you technically don't have any with the current rules.
Yes, so I just had to be transparent with every coach that's been talking to me, contacting me so far, and If it doesn't, then I'll just go ahead and clear for the draft and start preparing for that.
So, was there anything outside of just wanting more visibility that encouraged you to enter the portal? And I'm asking because I'm thinking about last year when I went to the Shrine Bowl and I got to interview several guys who had gone into the portal before declaring for the draft. And almost all of them cited some sort of coaching issue or dissatisfaction with leadership. Is that something you experienced, and or is that common among people that you know?
I say it's for sure common, but luckily for me, my sophomore, junior, senior, I had the same head coach and everything, so that wasn't a huge thing for me. It's just the tough thing being a D2 player. Last year, there was 0 D2 players drafted to the NFL, and then I think the year before that, it was only like 2 or 3. So it's really tough just because we're on a smaller stage, and most times you're just going to have to be like an undrafted free agent and then go prove yourself and then work in from there. So it's definitely possible to make an NFL roster from a D2. It's just more tough, and I'm trying to hopefully get a chance to just go show that I can play, and I want to be able to answer those questions on tape that I can play at that level and not just have the question mark from NFL GMs of can he do it? We haven't seen it, and I want to be able to answer that.
And so you have to go to a bigger school to show that. There's no way to do that on the D2 level.
I'd say there's talent for sure in D2, and I think the only big clear difference is in the trenches, but it's just that stigma of being from a small school that it's in so many in so many NFL GMs' minds is that we'd rather take a chance and strike out on a bigger name player from a bigger school than strike out on taking a D2 player and, if he doesn't work out, lose our credibility over that. Because you're putting a lot of trust and faith and credibility into a smaller school player over whenever you could go with a big P4 group of 5 player. And, that won't be frowned upon as much than if you strike out, going over a small school player.
Okay, so like when it's a D2 player, they're more likely to think it's like even if they do see it, they're like, oh, it's a fluke, or oh, of course he did that. It's against a D2 defense type thing.
Worse competition.
Okay.
So hypothetically, if you did have to declare, what would your answer be to that question of like, can you produce against better talent?
I'd say I know I can, and just give me the chance, and I hope and pray for just a camp invite to then be able to show and display that I can produce in front of and against that type of competition. And that's, all I need is just an opportunity to do that. But the hard thing is, getting that opportunity.
I feel like that's a part that doesn't get talked about enough, because when it comes to the transfer portal, something that people talk about all the time is like, oh, these kids and the NIL. It's almost like they act like every guy who's in the portal is in there because they want more money. And I'm just like, well, no, because like kind of like you're saying, it's like in order for you to get the opportunity that you're looking for, you need to be invited to a camp. And in order to even get that invite, you need a little bit more credibility behind your name and what you're doing. And so it's not just, okay, I want more NIL money. I want to go to a bigger school so I can get more money. It's like this decision to go into the portal can literally change the trajectory of your professional career, it sounds like.
Very true. That's so true, because you don't sometimes even get a chance to answer the question on if you can play and produce. You're just already, going to be marked off before you even get that opportunity. But if you get a chance to then, if I get the chance, to go and show that I can play against that level, that's going to, is going to be great for my professional career. And then just to add on to, a lot of times players it isn't even their option to enter the transfer portal. A lot of times coaching staffs will tell a player, we're bringing in someone that we think is better than you and to replace you, so it's best for you to go into the portal. So
what happens if a coach tells you to get into the portal and you don't?
Then you're just probably going to, just if you do that, you're just going to stay at your school and not get any playing time. They probably reduce the amount of money they're giving to you. So it's kind of like best for you just to go and enter the portal and go to another school and that wants you. And I feel like the worst thing that you can be is at a school with a coaching staff that doesn't want you, because
I would agree.
and then even if you are given a chance, like say you do mess up, it's going to be way worse for you than if a player that they want messes up, because they're going to give more chances to them. And then also just comes down to the business of, if you're more invested in one other player, you're going to give them more chances because you're paying them more money. So
Yeah.
it's just, it sucks, but that's, that's the world of college football right now.
Now, Kel, you're not at a big school either, but you're getting more playing time. So when it comes to the discussions of the portal, like how do you feel about it? Being someone who actually is getting a lot of playing time, but still small school for football, big school when it comes to like the academics, clearly. But, when it comes to football, a lot of people are like, that's like a different category.
I just feel like the portal is just a lot of politics. You see the Cincinnati quarterback who just got paid $5 million transferring to Tech, and he has not won a single game in November in his 2 years at Cincinnati. So it's a lot of things of just it's back to just regular recruiting again, but just on a higher elevated stage because these guys are already proven. My thoughts on the portal is also like I feel bad for these guys coming out of high school. It's like way worse now. You see schools like Tech, Oregon, just schools that just feel like we can just out-resource you. Like there's no team building anymore. It's just a 1-year rental guy who we're going to have for 5 months. We're going to lease him out like a car. And then once that's done, we're going to on to the next big thing because we have the resources to shell out this money to these particular players. So for me, and like the small schools, it feels like a stepping stone. It feels like you go from D2 to FCS, FCS to G5, G5 to P4. Well, now P5 with the Pac-12 coming back. So it's hard to go from these small schools to automatically to like a Bama or a Georgia. I saw this one Alabama State receiver. He was from HBCU All-American. He just signed with Tech. But now, living through my brother, they don't even talk to you anymore. It's not even about like trying to build a relationship. It's straight to who represents you, what's your agent. It's just straight to the money and the business. So
yikes.
It's like very just more and more transactional, more and more becoming about who has the biggest blank check.
So it sounds like for high school players, it would mean two things. One, it would mean you would have to get used to the business side of things very, very early. Like before you're even an adult, like if you think you're a good player, you might have to be age 16 trying to build your brand, pick your representation, and figuring out how to ensure that you get to a good school. It also sounds like it means that guys who used to have an opportunity to go to a big school because they had to fill their roster, now that's not really there. It's like if nobody knows who you are, you're going to a small school, and you better hope to make a big enough splash to be able to go in the portal and have somebody pick you up.
Right.
That does sound stressful as hell for a teenager.
I'd say if I could give, any advice to a high school player coming out like a 3-star, 4-star, just to go to a group of 5 school where you can go and actually play and, and then do your 2 years and then transfer up to like a Power 4, Power 5 school now, instead of just going to a Power 5 school that isn't even focused on developing high school players anymore. They're focusing on winning right now, so they're just trying to get 1-year rentals that are already proven, 22, 23-year-olds that can just come in and play now. They're just trying to just keep repeating that over again, and you're going to get lost. And then, after your second year, you haven't touched the field at all. You have nothing but just your high school senior year film. So
Yikes.
Rather than doing that and then having to try to enter the portal then with no film, just to go and be a star at a group of 5 school and then just get developed there, actually coach for real, and then, your junior, senior year, then try to transfer up and, go to a Power 4 school.
And what I would say, too, is, like, for the small schools, at least for me, like, yes, there's a lot of opportunity out there with all these deals and NIL and these blank checks. But I would say it's just so, like, it's just a blessing to walk into the locker room every day and not worry about who's going to be here the next day versus who's not going to be here. It's the same group of guys day in and day out. Like, I know these are my brothers who I'm just out here grinding with. And it just feels like we're all together in this thing. Like, I know that he's grinding as hard as me, and that on the field, it's about chemistry. It's like, can I trust you to do your job? Can you really build that trust in a training camp and during spring ball or in the weight room when we just have shirt and shorts on? We're doing clean squats and benches. Like, football is not about clean squats and benches. It's about, can I see you on the field doing your job continuously and being consistent with it? So now when I'm doing my job, I don't have to worry about doing something else, doing something extra.
Is that a problem you've had?
I mean, I would say that was a problem I had just when I transferred from my high school going into my senior year, just not having that chemistry, not knowing if a guy is where he's supposed to be, because I can't do my job all the way. Someone else isn't doing their job all the way.
Well, I definitely hope that somebody is taking all this into consideration as they make the new rules about the transfer portal. Because a lot of times when I hear people talk about it, they are talking about it from a business perspective, which seems to be the direction a lot of sports conversations are going. It's about what's legal, what's not legal, what can be done contractually, what makes sense from a business perspective and from a money perspective. And there's very little thought going into just the personal side of it, the chemistry building, the team building, as y'all mentioned, which is important for development. So I really do appreciate y'all sharing y'all's perspectives today. Just want to respond to the chat. Hey, Chris, no, I'm not ignoring y'all. First of all, you showed up late. It's good to see you, though, but you showed up late. I shouted out people in the chat earlier, and I was trying to make sure that I listened to my guests here who are sharing their stories from college ball and not reading the chat. So, yeah. And it looks like we've got a long comment here. I hope I don't regret putting this up on the screen. It looks like this one is about Eberflus says, you still got the same problems on defense after Matt exit, and you still have the same problems on offense in the red zone with Dax. Fix these problems first. I do agree that those are problems that need to be fixed. I am literally saying prayers for the Cowboys red zone offense. I don't think those need to be fixed first because this coaching search needs to happen, even just for the sake of making sure you get the right personnel, because different defensive coordinators might have different priorities when it comes to personnel. Like, there are some defensive coordinators, they're like, I gotta have a corner on one side that can shut down that side. There are some defensive coordinators that's like everything starts from the front, Hopefully they find somebody who knows how to find and train good linebackers, because I still believe that Maris Luafau could do something with the right training and experience and development. But those will be different stories for a different day because we're running out of time. I'm going to go through my 3 principles today for as it is in life, so it is in sports. So this is a segment, you guys, that I do where I talk about just the lessons that we've learned from the stuff that we talked about today. So if y'all have anything to add after I go through these, you can chime in. But as it is in life, so it is in sports. It feels like we are in the quote-unquote season of accountability in sports. You've got the situation with the WNBA and the WNBPA, where it looks like the WNBA might have to deal with the consequences of not handling the CBA situation sooner. You've got NFL coaches being fired, coordinators getting fired left and right. You've got the same thing happening in the MLS with the Manchester United and the Chelsea coach getting fired this week. And then you've got, the situation with the portal, which isn't the same as people getting fired. But, if somebody goes into the portal that you wanted to keep, I do believe that is a verdict on your system, on your organization. So I feel like from this season of accountability in sports, there are 3 things that we can learn from this. So, number 1, performance is the only currency that scales. So, the firing of Matt Eberflus and the firing of Ruben Amorim, each after about a year in their positions, proves that potential and past reputation and even relationships have a shorter shelf life than ever. Ruben Amorim, who was the head coach of Manchester United, he went into a press conference on Sunday really upset about just his position and some things going on organizationally. But in that press conference, he essentially said, I'm going to fulfill my 18 months and then we'll go from there. Basically saying he wasn't planning on returning to Manchester United. Well, the people in charge said, fuck 18 months. In less than 24 hours, he was gone. Matt Eberflus, another one season, he's gone. So in 2026, the organizations that we work with, that we work for, and the world in general, honestly, are no longer interested, it seems like, in 3-year plans, in giving it time, and trying to maintain relationships if the immediate output is historically bad. So you can't rely on your resume, on pride, on who you know to protect you from your current results. 2026 is the year of making sure that you are leveling up, making sure that you are doing your job, and not relying on resting on your laurels, your past reputation, or your pride. None of those things will protect you. You have to show impact. And if you aren't moving the needle, then the next man up might already be being interviewed for your spot. That goes for personal relationships too. Number 2, mobility is the greatest leverage. So this is where you can employ the portal mindset. So like I said earlier, there are 4,500 players entering the transfer portal. And so we're seeing a massive cultural shift in college football where loyalty is now a two-way street. And so while there are negative implications for the players who are going through this, there are other implications on the other side of that coin where players who realize that a program isn't serving their development or their value in terms of NIL or playtime, they have the power to leave. So what we should take from this is to not be a dead man walking, especially in a situation that isn't working. Once you realize the situation is not working for you, you can leave, whether that is a professional situation, a romantic situation, a social situation. Just make sure that you understand your value. And that brings us to number 3, which is knowing your value before the market does. So the WNBA players authorizing a strike is a perfect example of collective accountability. They aren't waiting for the league to generously offer them. They told the league without even knowing what their next offer would be, we will strike. Y'all think that we won't strike because it'll mean losing housing benefits. It'll mean some of us who aren't playing in winter leagues or, overseas. It'll mean that, we're missing out on money. We don't care. We know what we're worth and we're willing to strike to prove it. And so this is a lesson in knowing your value before the market does, because that's what gives you the leverage to make the moves that you need to make in order to end up in the situation that basically honors what you deserve. And also remember, if you don't advocate for your own worth, the quote unquote powers off your underpayment. So about holding systems accountable for the iron is hot, not after it cools down. So like I said, this goes for professional relationships, romantic, social, whatever kind of relationship you can think of. 2026 is a year to know your worth, but also keep developing your own potential. 2026 is not the year to pussy out. It's not the year to succumb to your own fears. 2026 is the year of saying, I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm capable of. I'm going to work for it. I'm going to fight for it. And I'm going to make sure that if this relationship does end, it's not going to be at a detriment to me. It's going to be because I'm moving on to something that's better for me and something that makes more sense for me. Anything to add?
I'd say just to expound on the knowing your worth, that's facts. And also just to make sure you don't ever let someone take advantage of you, because that's even worse than being underpaid, is someone taking advantage of your hard work that you're putting in and benefiting more off of you. And I just can say that off of right now, these agents that are going crazy, in college football,
speak on it,
are a lot of times giving bad advice. And right now, you don't even have to be licensed to be a college agent right now. So sometimes it's just like a homeboy that see they can take advantage and get a percentage off of your hard work. And most times they come in at the end and talk money with GMs, and then they want their 10%. But you put in all the hard work out on the football field, and you're the one that's the college coaches are speaking to and setting up visits and everything, and it's you doing that. So don't let just an agent at the end come in and take all your hard work. And then I saw a coach from head coach from Prairie View. He put on Twitter, if a drop pass happens or you run the wrong route or miss a tackle, am I going to yell at the agent or am I going to yell at you? So it's like the player, make sure you have control over your professional career and college career, and you're doing things you want to do.
All right. And on that note, that brings us to the end of this episode of Bitches Love Sports. Thank you, Keller. Thank you, Ben. We'll see y'all on Tuesday. I think I'm going to do a premiere of a Vault episode on Friday, so turn your notifications on and be on the lookout for that. But we'll definitely see y'all next week. I'm your host, Jazz Monet, and I'm out.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio. Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts.